Let's talk about something that's, well, incredibly common, but can be really hard to put your finger on: emotional numbness. It's that feeling of being disconnected from your own life, right? We're going to dive into what it is, why our brains even do it, and most importantly, how we can start to reconnect.
I mean, have you ever had that feeling? Like you're just going through the motions, and it feels like the color has been drained out of everything. If that sounds even a little bit familiar, then you're in the right place.
You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures that sense of isolation. It's not about being sad, not really. It's about feeling completely separate, even from the people you love. That glass wall. Wow, what a powerful way to describe that feeling of disconnection.
Okay, so let's actually put some names to these feelings. I think defining what we're talking about is such a critical first step because it helps us understand what's really going on inside our own heads.
So emotional numbness, which is sometimes called blunting, isn't actually an emotion. It's the absence of emotion. People often describe it as trying to move through a really heavy fog. You're still functioning, getting through your day, but you aren't truly feeling any of it. And this feeling can get even more specific and honestly, a little weirder. When that disconnection is turned inward, it's called depersonalization. This is that incredibly strange sensation of being an outside observer of your own life, almost like you're a robot or you're just watching a movie about yourself.
A huge piece of this puzzle is often something called anhedonia. This is when the things that used to bring you joy, maybe hobbies, friends, even music, suddenly just feel flat. The pleasure is just gone, and that leaves a very specific kind of void.
And this difference is actually really important. Think of emotional blunting like turning down the master volume on all your emotions, the good, the bad, all of it. Anhedonia, on the other hand, is like the channel for joy and pleasure specifically just went silent. They definitely overlap, but they're not exactly the same thing.
So why on earth does this happen? It can be pretty alarming to feel this way, but believe it or not, it's not random. There's a really good reason your brain responds like this. Numbness is almost always a reaction to overload. It might be the sudden overload from a traumatic event, or the slow burn of chronic stress, or even a whole lifetime of just pushing emotions down. In every case, it's your system's response to being pushed way past its capacity to cope. And this right here, this is the core idea. Numbness isn't a malfunction, it's a feature. When things get to be too much, your brain literally hits a pause button to help you survive. It dims the emotional lights so you can just focus on getting through whatever's happening.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. There's actual biology behind it. Brain scans show that when people are experiencing trauma or intense stress, the reward centers in the brain actually become less active. That means it is literally harder for your brain to process pleasure and positivity. It's not just in your head, it's in your brain's wiring.
So if numbness is a protective shield that's been left up for too long, how do we gently start to turn the feelings back on? Well, this brings us to solutions. And one of the most effective approaches is a set of skills from something called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. At its heart, CBT is all about building skills. It's not just about talking. It's about learning to see the direct lines that connect what happens to you, what you think about it, and then how you feel and act because of it. Basically, CBT teaches you to become a detective of your own mind. It gives you the tools to map out those hidden connections between your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. This lets you consciously step in and make changes, instead of just feeling like you're stuck on autopilot.
So let's look at one of the most practical tools from the CBT toolkit, something you can start thinking about right now. And it all has to do with tackling what are called automatic thoughts.
You know these thoughts. They just pop into our heads, right? They feel totally true in the moment, but a lot of the time, they're just unhelpful mental habits. They're like distorted shortcuts our brain takes, and man, they can have a huge negative impact on our mood.
And this is the tool itself, a thought record. It looks really simple, but it is so powerful. It forces you to slow down. So first, you identify the situation. Then you pinpoint that automatic thought that just popped into your head and the mood it created. Now here's the crucial step. You have to act like a detective and weigh the evidence for and against that thought. Finally, based on the actual evidence, you can come up with a more balanced, alternative thought.
A thought record is designed to help you catch these classic unhelpful thinking styles, like for example, mind reading, where you just assume you know exactly what someone else is thinking, or magnification, where you blow a small negative thing way out of proportion.
By writing them down and really looking at them, you start to see these patterns, and that's when you can start to change them.
Okay, let's bring all this together with one final, really crucial shift in perspective. It's so important to remember that feeling numb is not a life sentence, and it is never, ever a personal failure.
And you've got to remember, you are not alone in this, not by a long shot. Things like anxiety, which are incredibly common, are often directly linked to emotional numbness. This feeling is a part of the human condition, especially in the stressful world we live in.
If you remember one thing from all of this, please let it be this. Emotional numbness isn't a flaw that needs to be fixed. It's a message that needs to be heard. Think of it like a signal flare from your brain telling you that your system is overloaded, and it needs attention, it needs care, and it needs a new approach.
So ultimately, the question isn't just, how do I get rid of this feeling? The real question is, okay, this is a signal. How am I going to listen to it? Responding with compassion, with curiosity. That choice right there is the very first step toward reconnecting with yourself and your life.